Hi everybody, we are going to learn how to make a dice mold today. Now you can apply the same principles to other types of items you're molding, but this is specifically, we are going to be doing some dice. Now these are blanks that I've made for a customer, and so we're going to go ahead and make that mold for them. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, put these off to the side. One thing to note, because these are blanks, they are not nearly as heavily polished as a standard dice. Let me grab one. So you can kind of see the difference here between the two. You know, this one's a little bit cloudy. This one's obviously bigger. It's a different size dice, but you can see the difference in the polish here. So the reason with blanks that we only want to go through a partial of the polishing process is because with them, because they're going to be encased in another mold, it really doesn't matter what the outside surface looks like. The new resin that you pour will fill in all those cracks and it'll be completely clear, or should be. Also, with having not being completely smooth, that makes it easier for things like paint, stickers, washi tape, and whatever you might be wanting to stick to that blank instead of putting it in. So it gives it a little texture for things to stick to. So there's that. So the first thing that we need to be able to make a mold is a base surface. Now I like Avery. It's a single page stick. It's sticky on one side, not sticky on the other. It's intended for using as a form of laminate. So, you know, you put one sheet down, you put your item on top of the sticky side, you put the other one down, sticky side, and now it's sealed. But I find they work really great for bases for molds. Now, the next thing we need is a mold form. There's different types. I've got some really fancy ones that I've made myself, but they're not the right size for this application. So these, I printed these, bought a file, printed them, added the keys myself because I wanted them specifically for dice. And so this is one of the forms I'm using. This tonight, we're not using this one. Maybe another night. Tonight, we're going to do it basic. You know, what anybody and everybody would be able to successfully do on their own with things just found around their house. So these are biscuit molds or cutters. You can use them to cut out cookies, biscuits, whatever. They're just basic, cheap little plastic circles. And your molds can be circle, they can be square. It just really depends on what you're molding and how you want your finished mold to be. So for this one, looking at the number of dice we have, let's see, which one do we want to go with? Let's put them in there and see what we got. See if there's enough space. Because you don't want to have everything all together. You don't want them to be too close to one another. But you don't want to waste a bunch of money buying a mold or a bunch of silicone, because that's just a waste of money. So this is actually going to be probably the best mold for these. But let's just try this one and see what happens. So we got to move them a little bit further from the edge, a little tighter together. And yeah, that's just going to be way too tight. It's going to cause you problems during the casting process when you're casting in the mold. So we'll go ahead and use this one. So another thing that is absolutely necessary when you're building this type of a mold is something to be the sides of the mold. This is 3-inch cake. It's called a cake ring, or something along those lines. But it's used when making cakes, and it comes in different heights. This is the 3-inch. I've also got 4-inch and 5-inch, just depending on what I'm making. And you'll just find out how much you need and wrap it and call it good. Then a couple of other things that are just real useful to have handy is your glue gun, because you're going to need it. Plenty of glue sticks, which I keep in an old salsa jar. It's handy. And where did it go? Well, I normally have other things that I use that for molds, just depending on what I'm doing, but I seem to have misplaced it, so we're not going to worry about that today. But I do need to go get my double stick tape. I forgot it. Bear with me a moment. All right, so went and grabbed my double stick tape. So we've got the base of our molds, the sides of our molds, a way to connect this, and a way to connect this to this. So the way we start is first we make our pieces. So we'll do this one first. Take our form that we decided on, and we're just going to use that to determine how much of it's, oh, cake color. That's the official name, cake color. And again, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it anywhere you can buy basically baking supplies. So I've got this wrapped around the form just in a basic circle, and I've overlapped it by about an inch, inch and a half. So we're going to go ahead and cut this. There we go. Oh yeah, always have your scissors handy because you never know when you're going to need them. All right, so now I've got this, and we're going to go ahead and take some double stick tape. Now this stuff is a pain, but well worth it. So we're just going to take a chunk off if it's not going to fight me. Let's try this again because that piece decided not to cooperate. All right, there we go. And there we are. Now it's cooperating. All right, so I like to put this just as close to the end as I possibly can because you want to have a good seal so you don't have seepage. Now, that's not a great stick, but it'll do. Again, here's our mold form because we want to make sure we get it as close to perfect as possible. Our sticky tape's over here. And then we're just going to bring this around and just let it basically seal itself. It does a pretty good job. You just have to make sure that the collar itself is straight. And so now we have the sidewalls of our form. So we don't need this anymore. This can go away. Now we need to make the bottom of our form. Now, Avery is really nice. That's why I use it because it has these handy, dandy, fabulous little, measurings so I can make sure that I don't waste a lot of the product. So looking at this collar, I need to cut this area out. So put that off to the side. We'll come over here and we'll just cut it off. Now, the nice thing I like about mold making is once you get the hang of it, it's not nearly as intimidating or as difficult as you probably originally thought. It definitely requires attention to detail, but it's really not nearly as scary as I originally thought it was. So here we have our base. So I'm just going to go ahead and peel that off the backing, if it'll cooperate. And of course, it's not cooperating. I'm on camera. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this another way. This is just a simple X-Acto knife. Be very, very careful. And I'm just going to try to get that in between the two layers. Now, this is my own fault. I made this more difficult for myself because I didn't cut my piece off of the end where it's already separated because I didn't want to waste that much plastic. I'll use that other piece for a couple more molds that I'll be making here in the next day or two. But so as a result, I now need to fiddle with this to get my base available. I'm going to go fiddle with this. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. Here's my base. It's all ready to go. Here's my sides, all ready to go. Now I want to make sure that this stays in the right shape. So I'm going to go ahead and just put, oh, I want to do the other side. And we go. Make sure it's nicely situated on there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but be, nicely situated. Now, the nice thing, because this is sticky, this isn't going to move that much, but don't mess with it too much. All right, so now we've got the side on top of the base. We've got the form to make sure it stays a good circle. All right, next step. This is where we get to have fun with the glue gun. So let's go ahead, get some glue sticks out and ready. That way they're right at hand. Ooh, no product placement, please. All right, so we got our glue gun. It's hot, and we are just going to very generously glue along that bottom edge. Now, you are going to use this glue step pretty much whatever ready form you use, because of course, silicone and whatnot, whatever you're making your mold out of. I use silicone because of what I normally do, but you want to make sure that whatever you're making the mold from doesn't seep out. So if it's a liquid, you have to make sure the edges are fully sealed. So only takes a couple minutes. Generally, depending on the size of the mold, takes 2 to 3 glue sticks. At least for what I do, which are molds that are under 8 inches in diameter, because that's what will fit in my pressure pot. So there we go. We are almost done. There we go. All right. Give it a wiggle. Get that excess glue off. Oop, knock the dice off. There we go. Put those back there. All right. So that's done. Now I can gently and carefully remove. Oh, no. Let's give that just another moment for that to firm up. We'll come over here. And no. There we go. Just gently remove that. So now you can see I've got hot glue all along the edge. And so I'm just going to let this sit for a moment, let that glue fully set. And then I'm also going to go and look for spots like right here where it looks like the glue might not be right where I need it. And we're just going to look around. There we go. One of the little spots, seams and such like that. All right, so there we go. We've got our mold form. That is ready to go. Now, the next thing is, how are we going to, attach the dies? Well, that's why we use the sticky base, because that allows us to very securely have the dice stuck in such a way to where the silicone won't sneak under it. So we're going to just start by placing dice. There's really no rhyme or reason. There's no rules. It's just a matter of putting them where you want them. So I like to start with my D20s and place them generally, about across from one another. I don't know why. It's just the way I do it. Then next, I do my D10 and my D100. Again, placing it, you want to press fairly firmly on it so it does get a good stick. And then another one here. Why I do this again, I don't know. It's just the way I like to do it. Now, once you've pressed firmly on these, you do not want to move them. You can, but it can cause you other issues. So now this set has a couple different size of D6s per their request. So this one's the bigger of the two. I'm just going to put that in the middle. And then we're going to take this other one and we're going to put it right there. Why? Because. And this one. And no. There we are. And then we've got our T8. There we are. And let's turn this around so I have a better view. Because the last one I have to do is a bit of a pain in the tuchus, just because of its shape and the fact that it's really tiny. So Normally, I like to put just the small. That's not going to work with this one because, the small edge, because there's just not enough there to hold the weight. We don't want to put it on the tip here because it's too small. So you can put it down this side. And there we go. That is basically the beginning of your mold. From here, that's when you go take it and move to the next step. I will film that here shortly.